Hi and welcome to our first video tutorial. Today we'll be showing you how to use the cache operator of our versatile Jackhammer extension for RapidMiner. We'll start out with the basics and then cover some advanced functions and settings. You can also read this tutorial in our blog, just follow the link in the description of this video. The tutorial process is also featured in the community samples repository in RapidMiner. Okay, let's get started. To make things more tangible, we've created a little scenario for this video. This is you. You're working for this factory. Specifically, you are the company's data scientist. Of course, this company also has a boss. Here he is. Your boss is always looking for ways to save money, and his newest idea is to put up a wind turbine. This way he thinks he can produce his own electricity, won't have to pay for it anymore, and can even be environmentally friendly. He can already feel his popularity rising amongst his employees. It would be best if they could somehow see how much electricity the wind turbine is generating every day. This sounds like a job for his data scientist. You are assigned the task and get to work. First off, we'll discuss why we're using the cache operator. Our wind turbine sends data once a day. You could simply design a web app which would allow the company employees to access the data directly. But for a large company with many employees, this could put a lot of stress on the database, leading to long response times. Especially in sight of the fact that the data from the turbine is updated only once a day, this seems an undesirable solution. Therefore, we'll cache the data. Only the first request of the day will lead to an access to the database of our wind turbine. From there on, the data will be pulled from the cache rather than the database, minimizing response times and stress. Now that we've established our plan, start out with a blank new process. With the Jackhammer extension installed, simply start typing cache in the operator search or find it on the Jackhammer extension process control caching. Drop the operator into the process panel and take a look at the parameters. As you can see, you can enter a name for the cache, you've got a button to manually clear the cache, you can make a tick to restrict validity, and you can enter cache dependencies. We will discuss these advanced parameters later, and now just enter a name. If you don't set a name, that's fine. RapidMiner will use the operator name, so that would be cache. In order to be able to keep track of everything, however, especially in more complex processes, it is recommended to enter a name. As this is where we would like to cache our data sent by the wind turbine, we'll call it wind turbine. Now go ahead and make the connection from the output port of the cache operator to the results port on the right, just so you can't forget to do it later. After that, double-click on the operator to enter the sub-process. Everything you put here will be cached. Let's first add our database connection and set the correct parameters to access the data. Don't forget to make all necessary connections. We can now run the process and see what happens. So what you can see here is data from the turbine. It sends a sequence index, a date, wind speed, and generated power. Now we don't really need the sequence index, so we'll go back to our process to get rid of it. A great feature of the cache operator is that you can not only put data in there, but basically everything, from pre-processing steps to models. Everything in there will be cached, further reducing process execution time. To get rid of the row sequence index, we'll use select attributes. Drag and drop the operator into the process and select single from the drop-down menu in the parameters. Now I'll just enter the name of the attribute we would like to get rid of, so that's sequence index, and make the tick at invert selection, or else we'll end up with only the selected attribute. Great, now we'll check if it worked. With the newest Jackhammer update installed, the cache should automatically clear and reload when the sub-process is changed. So let's run the process and voila, no more sequence index. If that didn't work for you, try using the clear cache button in the operator's parameters to manually clear the cache and then run the process again. Our next step is to restrict data validity. As mentioned before, the turbine sends data once a day, so there's no need to set up a direct database connection for the company employees to check the power output of the turbine. That's why we're using the cache. But we also don't want the data in the cache to be more than a day old, as then it wouldn't be the most up-to-date information anymore. Of course, you could just go and manually clear the cache every day, but that seems rather bothersome. We'll opt for automating this process, setting a time period after which the cache will reload automatically. Go back to the root level if you haven't already and click on the cache operator to see its parameters. Make the tick at restrict validity to open a field for the validity period where you can enter a time period of your choosing in milliseconds. As I said before, the data changes once a day, so that's 24 hours times 60 times 60 and times 1000 makes 8, 6, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 zeros. Great, run the process again to have the countdown start. If you were to check back in a day, the cache should have reloaded to put out the newest data. However, there is still a bit of a problem here, and we'll use cache dependencies to solve it. Say the first employee checking the wind turbine data does so at 10 AM. This is what sets off the 24-hour period. If an employee checks at 8:30 AM on the next day, so before the 24 hours have passed, the data will not be renewed even though the turbine has already sent new data. To work around this issue, we'll have to set cache dependencies to reload the cache as soon as it's a new day. Cache dependencies work with macros. As you can read when clicking on Edit Enumeration, if the cache should depend on changing values of macros, you can add their names to the list. The cache will then be specific to the values. So what we'll do is generate a macro containing the current date. As soon as the value changes, as soon as it's a new day, the cache data will be invalid, leading to a reload. This way, the data will always be up to date regardless of at what time the first employee checked the turbine's power output on the day before. Search for the generate macro operator and drop it onto the process. It is important that the macro operator is executed before the cache. To ensure this, place it in front of the cache operator and make a connection from the right output port of the macro to the left input port of the cache operator. This way, the order is fixed and you can be sure your cache receives the macro. Now click on Generate Macro to see the parameter settings. Click on Edit List. First, you should enter a name for your macro. We'll call it date. Then click on the little calculator icon on the right or directly into the field next to it to enter the expression generating the macro. To get the current date, you have to enter the following: date underscore str underscore custom open bracket date underscore now open bracket close bracket comma quotes lower y that is 4 y's dash capital MM dash lower DD quotes and close bracket. Our expression is syntactically correct, so now we'll check if it really works. To be able to see the macros of your process, you can click on View, Show Panel, and then select Macros. Right now we can see the automatically created process start macro, so let's run the process and see what happens. Go back to the design view, and as you can see, there's now a new macro containing the current date. As soon as this value changes, the cache will automatically be cleared and reload. Now we only need to add the dependency to the cache parameters. To do so, simply select the operator and click on the button next to dependencies. Enter the macro's name, that is date in this case, and click Add Entry. Run the process again to finalize the dependency. That's it, you're all done, and you can now start the web service that the employees can access to see how much power the new wind turbine is generating. Your boss will be happy. We will finish this video with a short summary. Possible applications for the cache operator. Use it with static or only infrequently changing data. If there's no new data, there's no need to put stress on your database by constantly accessing it. It will also significantly reduce response times for web services, especially for those with lots of simultaneous users. You can also use the cache operator during the process design stage to be able to quickly try out different ideas without having to wait for the entire data to load each time you change something in your process. To use it, you simply add it to your process and make all necessary connections between the ports. Everything inside the sub-process will be cached data, models, and even whole index collections. Also, the operator has two advanced parameter options. You can restrict validity, automatically clearing and reloading the cache after a set period of time, or use cache dependencies to have the cache cleared and reloaded when the value of the macro changes. We hope you liked the video. If you have any ideas, questions or comments, ask them below or write us an email or contact us on Twitter. If you would like more tutorials, check out our blog, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, all linked in the video description. Thanks for watching.